What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about our Survivor Season 40 boot list. It's almost 2 weeks away, which is crazy that this is happening so quickly. Boot list, Chris Underwood is coming back from Edge of Extinction and winning. Okay, that's the end of the podcast. But yes, so my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa. And the reason Rachel said boot list with the quotation marks is we didn't actually assign everyone like a number boot, just because we thought it would be very confusing with the fact that there are two people coming back from Edge. We were like, would we put them in their original boot spot, or would we put them in their boot spot if they get rebooted, or like what's going on there? So what we decided to do was break it up into three main categories, which is people we think are going to get voted out pre-merge, people we think are going to get voted out early merge, and then people who are in like the top 8, or people who basically we think could win the game, but we're going to get more specific and say even more so like who we think has winner potential of our top 8. So yeah, that's kind of how things are going to go, so that we don't have to do the weird like they're going to get booted, but then they're going to get booted again thing that happens.
Yeah, doing the boot list with Edge, it's just very complicated. So we're getting rid of that complication. And if you all listening want to play along and submit your boot list, or buckets, we'll call them. So pre-merge, we both put 7 people into the pre-merge category bucket, which if we merge at 13, that makes sense. We put 5 people into the early merge bucket, and then we did the top 8. So that's the final 8. After we go through our buckets here, then we'll talk about who we think can win coming back from Edge, and then who has winner potential, and then also our winner picks for the season. So this is an exciting podcast. Our buckets are in no particular order. We are just going to put names on a list, and that's how we created our buckets.
Yeah, and so also before the podcast started, Rachel and I looked at each other's like buckets, and we're pretty similar.
Yeah.
So in order to like keep from rehashing the same thing, if we have someone in the same bucket and we don't have anything to add, we're just going to be like, yeah, that's what I had to. So
yeah, so it's super interesting that even though we created these lists separately, that our top 8 is very, very similar. And I think that will be interesting to see how well our top 8 and our pre-merge buckets correlate to the actual game in 2 weeks. So I'm just super excited, and we'll get started.
Yep. So the first bucket that we had was the pre-merge bucket. And so I'm going to list off the names really quick that I had, and then Rachel's going to list off the names, and we're going to talk about the people that we had similarly and the people that we had differently. So, yeah. My pre-merge bucket was Natalie, Nick, Rob, Sophie, Wendell, Kim, and Danny.
Okay, so my pre-merge bucket, I have Sarah, Nick, Sophie, Ben, Denise, Rob, and Kim. So it's interesting because similarities, we both have Nick in there, we both have Boston Rob and Sophie in there, and Kim. So our differences, I put Sarah and Ben, and then Alyssa put Natalie and Wendell in the pre-merge. And I think that's just super interesting. Even though we said like, oh, it's not in any particular order, first boot, third boot, whatever, when Alyssa and I, before we started the podcast, we made the comparison that like, okay, not all of the big name people are going to be able to make it to the merge, because what Alyssa and I are thinking are that the big name people are going to have to link up and pair together at the beginning for the first few votes, at least if they want to get a footing in the game and make it somewhat far into the game. So with our boot list, we're sort of thinking in that vein. And so we put Boston, Rob, and Kim both in the pre-merge bucket, because no way you're going to let all of the big name people make it to the merge. I think once you're getting like 5 people voted out already, you're going to start thinking of the merge. You cannot let Boston, Rob, and Amber get to the merge together. I think Kim is super dangerous out of the big name people because they've only seen her play one time. She was very strategically dominant in her first time. So I would be very scared of seeing her in the merge. And so I feel like out of the bigger name people, I would put Kim and Boston Rob in the pre-merge. which is sort of sad, but we'll see them on Edge.
Yeah, and I think also one of the things Rachel and I talked about was with Rob. You're never gonna want to let Rob get into a place where he's playing the game with Amber just because that's how he well, I guess not how he won. It's how she won last time. And so it's like you want to eliminate one of them, and I think because Rob has played so many more times, he's seen as the more dangerous half of that power couple. And I'm not sure if people would think that voting out Amber would actually do anything to Rob just because
Mhm.
Rob has played the game and won the game without Amber and not vice versa.
Yeah,
So,
I think Rob is just dangerous, and especially with a bunch of tribe swaps and stuff, you might want to vote Rob out early before the first tribe swap. But if you are on Rob and Amber's side and the big name team, then it's like, okay, you would use them for the first few votes, especially if it goes into tribes of 6. To have a 2-person vote with you already could be very advantageous going into a tribe of 6, which is very small. So I think you would use them for what you can get and then vote them out, because I think just the big name people, they have all of their prior relationships and friendships that they could probably bring in some of the smaller name winners or the more recent winners and then use them for their advantage at the beginning. And then you have to vote them out before the merge, because I really think if Boston Rob makes it to the merge and like is able to do the puzzles and the individual portion of the game, that's just way too dangerous.
yeah, I was also thinking when making my list about physical strength, just because some people have mentioned like a strategy going into Survivor, especially when you get to the tribes of 6, is to keep the strongest members of your tribe so that you don't have to keep going back to immunity or to tribal council if you keep winning immunity. And so I was kind of thinking of that also when I was putting together my list, which is why most of the people on my list are the like I guess quote unquote weaker people. Like I don't think Natalie or Danny or Sophie were ever like super great at challenges. And so I think that combined with the fact that they don't really have a lot of connections would mean that they would be going home earlier.
Yeah, I put Nick and Sophie on my pre-merge bucket for similar reasons. Like Nick doesn't seem to have that many allies or friendships, like know a lot of people on the tribes, and then Sophie for like the strength aspect. For our differences in people, I had Sarah pre-merge and then Ben and Denise pre-merge, who Alyssa had Natalie, Danny, and Wendell pre-merge. So I feel like for me, Sarah, from what I see on Facebook and a lot of people, like, I guess these photos have been coming out where the castaways hold up a piece of paper and like, who's the first person you would vote out of the tribe? 5 people right now have said Sarah as their first boot. So I'm thinking, people are scared of Sarah. They don't want her to get far. So I put her in the pre-merge bucket just because I think she has some kind of like aura about her, which I think is sort of scary. And I would not want to see her get far, because even though she is a good physical ally and a threat, like, I don't know, I think she would go home early. And then Ben, just because seemingly also maybe the whole connections thing, and then maybe people don't regard his win as good as some of the other winners, so they would vote him out early because he doesn't have the connections, and maybe they're afraid he's going to find idols on the island. And so that reason. And then Denise, even though she is physically strong, I feel like she just doesn't know maybe a lot of the people, and I feel like you could bring someone else as more of a goat rather than bringing Denise along as a goat. So vote her out.
Yeah. And I think it's worth mentioning, Rachel and I also talked about this. Most of the people we have like pretty similar to each other. So I have Sarah, Ben, and Denise all in my next bucket, which is like the early merge people. So there's only a few people that we really disagree on, I think. And we'll go over those when we get to them. So, yeah. Yeah. So I already kind of explained why I put Natalie in the pre-merge bucket, and part of that is the fact that she wasn't like super great in challenges to my memory, and then yeah, she doesn't have a lot of connections. Obviously, she knows Jeremy, but that's like, yeah, especially because Jeremy knows other people on the season other than her. Wendell, I feel like Wendell was so successful because he had a really strong partner in Dom. And so, what you want to do with people who like to play as pairs is you want to break up their power couple before their power couple can even form. And so it's like, I would say almost the same thing with Denise, where you don't want to let Denise find a Malcolm, you don't want to let Wendell find a Dom. And so by voting out Wendell before he can like make that super strong relationship and before he can get to the point where he has a ride or die that will help him get to the end, then you're better off. And he also said that he was worried about coming off too strong when he did his like pre-interview thing. So I think that's worth noting. And then Danny, like, I feel like Guatemala is just the season we don't really talk about. And the fact that, like, no one really talks about Guatemala, and Danny is, you know, I don't want to say unremarkable because she won the game of Survivor, but like when I think Danny Boatwright, the first thing that doesn't come to mind, or the first thing that comes to mind isn't like best Survivor player of all time. Whereas there are some people who won unremarkable seasons who I think are still like remarkable winners for some way. So kind of like that aura is the reason why I thought that Danny could go home pretty early.
Yeah, and I feel like for this, Wendell and Danny were two of the people that we disagreed the most on because Alyssa has them in her pre-merge versus I put Danny and Wendell both in my top 8. So I think that's our biggest like disconnect on here. Everyone else, we are only like one bucket difference. So like someone Alyssa has in pre-merge, I might have in early merge, or someone I have in early merge, Alyssa has in the top 8. So like I feel like these two are the most drastic differences. So let us know in the comments if you think Wendell and Danny will go home early or if they're going home later. But yes, moving into the early merge. So these are the people who are going to be going home right after the merge or right when the merge is happening. So we put 5 people into this bucket. So I put Natalie, Adam, Sandra, Parvati, and Yul into my early merge category.
And in my early merge category, I had Sandra, Ben, Adam, Denise, and Sarah. So the similarities that we had were Sandra and Adam, and then I think our other 3 people were all different. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess talking about Sandra and Adam, I feel like Sandra can make it to the merge because she has so many connections. And if everyone is thinking, okay, big names need to stick together, I could see Sandra making it to the merge, which I think is freaking crazy because you'd be like, oh, she's definitely the first boot. But I don't know. I think she can make it to the merge. But yeah, not top 8. So I put her there just because, like, similar to Boss and Rob, once these people get some kind of foothold in the game, you need to vote them out. And especially if you're getting to the merge and you're in the individual portion of the game, there's really no reason to vote Sandra out because she's probably not winning immunities. And that's the dangerous thing because your focus might be on like the Tysons or the really strong physical competitors, but then that'll just let Sandra slip by because she's not as physical. And I think if Sandra has the shield and like doesn't lose a lot of challenges at the beginning and becomes a target because she's less physical, then I think she can totally make it to the merge. And if people are thinking, you would not forget about her just because the merge happened. So you need to vote her out.
Yeah, I was thinking with Sandra, kind of the idea we've been talking about with like all the big name players getting in an alliance. I'm assuming that alliance would probably be like up until the merge or up until a point that they all agree upon that's probably near to the merge, at which point they can all like turn on each other. And so I think Sandra might get to the merge just on the basis of that alliance. And then once they get to the merge, it's like she's too dangerous to keep around because she is like such a formidable player. And I think that'll be when she like goes home. I wouldn't be surprised if she was the merge boot, to be honest. So
yeah, I think if there is some sort of big names alliance, you definitely can't ride that out the whole way. You definitely do have to start backstabbing. And I think perfect time a little bit before the merge, like we're saying with Boston, Robin, Kim, and then going into the merge with Sandra. So Alyssa and I both also had Adam in our early merge. And I don't know, with this, I just don't necessarily see him in top 8, but don't necessarily see him in pre-merge. So early merge was the last place to put him, and I feel like I could see that happening because, okay, he can get in with the big names alliance at the beginning, but then coming into the merge, maybe people think he's squirrely or not trustworthy or something, and then you vote him out.
Yeah, I kind of did it by feel, I guess. And like you said, I don't think that Adam would be a pre-merge. I don't think that he would be in the top either. So, kind of process of elimination, he's early merge.
Yeah, so our differences, I put Natalie, Parvati, and Yul in my early merge versus Alyssa put Ben, Denise, and Sarah in her early merge, which is interesting because for like Alyssa, she had Natalie and them in the pre-merge versus now I have them in the early merge. So they're bucket off. For the early merge of Natalie, I was just thinking maybe her relationship with Jeremy and his relationship to Boston Rob and them can create some kind of alliance through like, oh, I know them by like 3 degrees of separation, whatever, and that can get her far. But I don't know. I just don't see her top 8 or winning the game. And so early merge it is. And so similarly with Sandra, Parvati, I put in early merge as well because same exact thing. You are not letting Parvati get super deep into the game because she can totally win the game again. And so I think once the whole big names alliance crumbles, you need to get her voted out as soon as possible. And then Yul, I put early merge as well because I feel like Yul just seems too nice and that he is going to be too trustworthy and then not realize maybe when his alliance is scheming against him, because I think Yul is super smart and good at the game, but maybe because he hasn't played in so long, people will be able to pull the rug out of under his feet.
Pull the wool over his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the people that I had, like I said, were all people that Rachel had in pre-merge. And so that's Ben, Denise, and Sarah. And for Ben, I was thinking Rachel mentioned that the reason people might vote him out is because of idol finding. And I was actually thinking that could be the reason that he manages to make it to the merge is because he's found an idol or more than one idol. But then also, I feel like Ben is like a pretty decently physical player, I think. And I think that tribe with him on it, as long as the rest of the tribe didn't suck, might have a good chance at winning immunities. So, yeah, that was my thinking for Ben. For Sarah, I was thinking that she would be kind of like Sandra, where she might be able to like skate through the pre-merge, but then once the merge comes, people are like, yeah, it's time to like cut your throat. And then Denise, I kind of just did her by process of elimination too. I wasn't really sure where she would end up. And so I was thinking she would be definitely not top 8. And so after I settled on who I thought for pre-merge, I was like, okay, Denise makes sense for early merge. So, yeah. Sorry, it wasn't super scientific.
If you want scientific, you can watch our like cast assessment and stuff. But this is literally with this kind of season with so many big players. I think Alyssa and I could literally make 100 different ways this game will go about, and it could be different every time. If you put these same 20 people on the island 100 different times, I think the game could go differently every single time. So like a lot of this is really just the shot in the dark kind of thing. So it's really just what we're feeling.
And then you gotta go with your emotions. So
yes, in our gut. So our top 8, which is very surprising because like we said, we did this boot list separately, but our top 8 is very, very similar. So for my top 8, I have Amber, Tyson, Wendell, Jeremy, Ethan, Danny, Michelle, and Tony.
And for my top 8, I had Amber, Tony, Jeremy, Ethan, Parvati, Tyson, Yul, and Michelle. So the differences were I had Yul and Parvati, and then Rachel had Wendell and Danny.
Which is interesting because Alyssa had Wendell and Danny going pre-merge, and I have them making top 8. Less interesting for the other differences of Parvati and Yul because I put them early merge. And like we're saying, this can probably fluctuate so much. But I don't know. I think Wendell has winner potential. He's very likable and friendly, it seems. And I think people will want to be his friend or respect him. He also has the connection with Jeremy and them. So I feel like if you're with him, especially when the challenges are physical, I don't really see a reason why you would vote him out super early unless he does something like weird or sketch, and then you would get him out. But I think he's definitely an asset at the beginning of the game. And then I think once he makes it to the merge, he could go very, very far into the game. And then for our other difference, Danny, I just think, like you were saying, how Guatemala is sort of forgettable. Like, definitely in the Survivor universe, it is. Nobody has come back besides Danny from that season. So Danny's again. But I just think, I don't know, because it is so forgettable that people will be like, not remember it or anything. And I think Danny can sort of squeeze by because there are so many other bigger targets, especially if like Kim and Sophie go early, who are also in that sort of like female cluster of like early Survivor seasons. I think Danny can sort of squeeze by as like, I'm not threatening. I don't even know how to play the game. Like, we only had one hidden immunity idol here kind of thing, and just sort of make it far into the game. But I'm not sure if I could see Danny winning the game.
Yeah, Rachel and I also talked before we started podcasting about how like the like lesser known people could go either way because they could either be voted out early because they don't have connections or because they could slip under the radar. And so like I don't disagree with the fact that Wendell and Danny could get far. Like I think that they could. I think they're kind of like wild cards. And like Rachel said, this game could go so many different ways. And I think we might have a better idea of how things are going to go after we see the first episode. But yeah, for me, I put Yule and Parvati just because I think Parvati is going to be like maybe number 8. So I think that she might be able to like wiggle past the early merge. But then when people are like, oh shoot, final 3 is coming soon, they will vote her out. And I'm not sure I agree with you about Yule's alliance being able to like fool him into thinking that they're not going to vote him out. Like, I think he's a smart guy, and I think that he could get really far. And I do think he has winner potential this season. So,
Okay, yay. I like Yule, though. I just think, I don't know, I would like to see how he can adapt from the kind of trust cluster kind of game to a more like, you don't necessarily have a number 1 the entire game. But I could see if like Yule and Wendell team up, they could be that number 1 for each other and then powerhouse through, which could be interesting. I would just like to see how like the older players adapt, I guess.
yeah, and I guess I enjoy seeing it when people are like really ride or die, but I do think it makes a more interesting game when people are willing to betray each other. So,
yeah, no friends on the island. So Alyssa and I, for our similarities in our top 8, so we have 6 of 8 as the same. Our similarities are Amber, Tyson, Jeremy, Ethan, Michelle, and Tony. So I guess starting with Amber, I just think like if Boston Rob gets voted out early, you won't necessarily have a threat of voting Amber out because I feel like she's always seen as the lesser of the two. And especially everyone always votes like, oh, the girl out instead of the guy. And so now you have Amber there. And I don't know, I just could see her getting very, very far because I think a lot of her target is the shadow of Boston Rob. And then people won't necessarily respect her for like her own gameplay and be like, oh, she's just here for like whatever the hell.
Yeah, and I think also the fact that it sounds like people on the edge are going to be able to like sell things to people in the game. Like if Rob gets out and goes on the edge, who's to say he can't just then sell things to Amber? So
Yeah, for 1 fire token each.
or just like give it to her. 0 fire tokens. So
yeah, so then for Tyson, I just think Tyson is set up very well, unless he gets voted out early because he is connected to Boston Rob and people find that threatening. But I think, I don't know, maybe it's just like high hopes. I want to see Tyson go far, but I think he has the social chops and the athletic and strategic ability to sort of get the target off of his back. And I think it helps that he is so quirky and funny that it's like, oh, he's not that smart. He's like just being weird today kind of thing. I just think he can make it far. And Alyssa and I both have him in our top 8. So I think hopefully we're not wishful thinking, but I could see him making it far.
Yeah, I think for me, I also did part of this on what I wished would happen, not exactly like what might 100% happen. And I really want to see Tyson on my screen for a really long time. So
I know. And
yeah.
so our next similarity is Jeremy. I think Jeremy can also make the top 8 because he has the connections and he's very friendly and likable. I would say Jeremy has winner potential, but I've sort of been decreasing that winner potential recently because if all the viewers think Jeremy can win and a lot of the people who have played Survivor before think Jeremy can win this preseason, like I think that the people on the season can put two and two together and then be like, yo, we can't let Jeremy get to the final 3 because he's just so darn likable. We need to vote him out. So my winner potential on him has been decreasing, but I think Jeremy can still make it far because he is good at the game, and I think he doesn't necessarily have too big of a target on his back until the merge, especially if he does do the meat shield strategy, probably, which means aligning with the brand name players of Survivor.
Yeah, I was going to say the whole meat shield strategy is why I think Jeremy will make it to the top 8, but like you, I'm not sure that he's going to win just because, yeah, exactly what you said about how if we see winner potential in him, everyone is going to see winner potential in him. But then again, I feel like that can be said for a lot of people where it's like they might get far and then if everyone has winner potential, one of them is going to have to win. So
yeah. Technically, yeah, they all have winner potential because they're the 20 people on the island. Alyssa and I have 0 winner potential because we're sitting in our dorm room. So everyone there technically has the chance to win. I think just who has more chances and who has less chances.
Yeah.
So our next similarity for the top 8 is Ethan. I think, I don't know, similar to Danny in a way for me, I think Ethan can go far because at the beginning, if he does have those connections to like Boss and Rob and the bigger name players, then Ethan might be able to sort of be an adjunct to the big name alliance and then make it sort of far into the game. And that's all you really need for the first few votes is to be in the majority. Doesn't really matter if you're the bottom of that majority or not. I think you just have to make it a little bit far into the game and then you can really get your own foothold in the game. And I think that's something that Ethan might do because he hasn't played in a long time. He's probably going to have to learn some things on the fly. And what better way to do that than to have a mentor with one of the big name players? And I think once the merge hits, I don't really see why Ethan would have a target on his back unless he starts doing very, very well in the immunity challenges. And then that might be a reason to vote him out. But similar to Jeremy, Ethan is just so darn likable. Like, I'd feel sad. I was like, oh, I want to be your friend. I don't want to vote you out, but it's a cutthroat game. But I can also see Ethan making it to top 8 because of his connections. And if he is able to adapt to the game and play the cutthroat game that is not seen in those beginning seasons of Survivor, then I think he can go far.
I think the thing with Ethan also is he could play up the like dumb old man thing.
Yeah.
If he wants to. Like you look at Co Wrong and like Joe made it really far in the game just because no one ever really thought he was worth voting out because he was old and would never win immunity. And so I think if Ethan can like play that up and then also, like you said, adapt to the current strategy, he'll be golden. So
yeah. So our next similarity is Michelle. For me, I think Michelle is just someone who, in these second chance kind of returner player seasons, like is the archetype to win. Like we've seen Amber win. We've seen Jeremy come back and win these kinds of season. Parvati won a returner kind of season. So I think it's like she's definitely the kind of girl that can make it super far and then somehow win the game because everyone underestimated her. No one really thought she was worth voting out because people might not even respect her win from the first place. And so I think she can make it far if she gets past the first few votes, which is like what we're literally saying about everyone. I think the first 2, 3, 6 days on the island is really going to make or break the game and really set the trajectory for the game. So I think the first 2 episodes this season are going to be very interesting. And then you can probably see maybe who can make it far and who won't make it that far. But I feel like Michelle is just set up so perfectly because she's going estimated. Like, no one's going to want to vote her out unless she's on the wrong side of the numbers at the beginning. But I feel like Michelle can truly integrate herself with any majority because she seems just so friendly and personable. And if she plays the card like, I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm doing, like I won by a fluke, whatever, like then I think she can sort of become a pet to one of the bigger name players who have the ego, and then she can ride that out until the merge, and then it's time to cut some throats.
I think the question, though, would be if Michelle has any winner potential, because I'm not sure anyone would want to give a second win to someone they weren't sure deserved the first win. Like, I'm not sure what the attitude of winners is about, like, Aubrey versus Michelle and Co. Wrong, but it's like, if you don't believe that someone belongs on an all-winner season because you don't believe they should have won their season, I don't believe you'd then vote for them in the final 3. So I think Michelle could get pretty far on in the game by being able to play the like dumb, oh, I won by a fluke thing, but I'm not sure if it would get her the $2 million. I keep trying to say $1 million and then I have to fix.
No, yeah, I think if Michelle like does make big moves and kind of thing, and like even in her ET Canada video, she says she wants to be more cutthroat this season, then I think definitely like if she makes it to final 3 and she plays a better game than her 2 components and has that story, then like she could have the winner potential. But yeah, I don't know if just the social game is going to win for anyone this season, not just Michelle. And so it will be very interesting because with potentially like 17 people on the jury, it really is just a popularity contest and like who the winners want to represent their season 40 win, which is sort of crappy because it's like not who played the best game, but it's like who is the name that you want to represent this all-star season of Survivor.
Yeah, and I think that might also play a role in like who gets this far because it's like we said, we're not sure they want all the crappy winners to get to the end. But yeah, the next person we had in common was Tony. And I feel like Tony kind of just like speaks for himself. Like he's crazy. And I feel like Tony is one of those people where if he, we're going to say it again, if he doesn't get out towards the beginning, he can go really, really deep just because he's just such a wild card. And I think that people don't like they know that about him, but I don't think you know what it's like to play the game with Tony until you played the game with Tony. And so the people who haven't played with him before are going to be like just rolling because they just don't understand how to play with Tony. And obviously we both think that Sarah's going to be voted out by this point. So I think Tony's going to be more of a free agent maybe than he was at the beginning because the people that he has relationships with, I think, are going to get voted out before him. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think Tony can go like first or he can make it very far. I guess I worry maybe a little bit that people won't respect him if he's like doing a bunch of weird stuff on the island, or if like in his ET Canada video, he's just going to chill out. I think he can still bring all of his cards to the table and he can play a very, very good game. But then it's also like the whole respect and deserving to win. Would they give Tony the 2 million and then make him the winner of season 40? Not sure, but I think it would be very interesting.
So. I think so. Because I think so many winners have said that there's never been someone who's replicated Tony's game successfully. And I think that's like kind of a point of pride for some people. Like the fact that like Tony's so unique that no one has ever managed to play a game like his. And it's like you see people playing games, not exactly like the other winners, but like you've seen someone play a really smart game like Yule before. You've seen someone play like a kind of flirtatious game like Parvati before, but you've never seen someone play like a crazy high energy, super like just weird game like Tony and succeed at it before. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so excited because, like we've said, this is just our buckets for the season 40 boot list. It can be very correct or it can probably be very incorrect, but we'll talk about who we think can win their way back from the edge of extinction because I feel like the edge is the wild card of the season because that's why we can't do a boot list. We don't know who's coming in when, how many people are coming in, that whole shindig. So I think people that can win their way back from edge, I would just be interested in knowing what the challenges are because I feel like the challenges for season 38 were very not necessarily suitable for all kinds of people. And I think they definitely favored certain body types or athleticisms, which you can say is okay, that's a part of Survivor. But I would like to see, I don't know, something that's like everyone has a fair chance at.
yeah, I agree with that. Just because, like, I guess the fact that Devin's won his way back in means that it's not like the super buff body type, but then also Chris Underwood won and he's like cut. So, yeah, I was going to mention that when talking about who can win their way back from the edge, just because I don't think it's a coincidence that both of the people who won their way back were men. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think depending on the challenge, it could disadvantage some smaller females or something. So, like a Sophie going out in the pre-merge might not have any chance of coming back or winning their way back in. If Sandra got voted out pre-merge, I'm like, I don't really think she's winning a challenge. So I think people that have a good chance would be people that are athletic. If there's a puzzle, good at puzzles. So that might favor Boston Rob, which could be scary if you vote him out pre-merge and then he's able to like win his way back into the season. I think any of the guys seem so athletic enough. I could see Tyson, Wendell, Jeremy all winning their way back in. That's scary.
I think also one of the things to remember is that they're going to be able to buy advantages using fire tokens. So
For the challenge.
we have to consider who is capable of like selling their wares successfully, I guess, and then how impactful we think the fire token advantage will be on the game. We talked about that kind of in our fire token video. But I feel like definitely Boston Rob, if he got out, could come back because he has both the like puzzle knowledge and probably would be able to make a successful sale. So
That would be interesting. You know, Boston Rob voted out early and then he wins his way back in the merge. And then you're like, holy crapperoni, we've got both of them out here again. Not good. But yeah, I don't know. I think with the edge, there's just so much variability because we don't know any of these things, fire tokens, when are people coming back, what even the challenge is. So that's just a black cloud. So that's why we can't do a boot list, but we will talk about who has winner potential for this season. I picked 3 people that are not my winner pick. They're like, if my winner pick doesn't win, they're people that I think could also win the game.
yeah. Yeah. I feel like we said, there's so many people that could win the game. So
Everyone, because they're out there. But for my 3 top winner potentials, I have Michelle, Wendell, and Jeremy. I think those are the safe picks. They don't really rub people the wrong way. They're not a super big name. And I think if my winner pick does not win, those 3, seemingly a lot of the fans and the people who have played Survivor are picking them as their winner pick. So I think that's a good bet to put my money on if we did a bet.
yeah, I feel like for me, my 3 who aren't my winner pick, I would pick Tony, Jeremy, and I didn't really think about a third. I'm gonna say Tony, Jeremy, and Michelle, just because like I wouldn't be super thrilled if Michelle won again, but I think she could win. So yeah.
Yeah. So on to what everyone has been waiting for, our winner picks for the season. How do we want to do this, Alyssa?
Just say a name.
I guess I know who yours is. I just put mine in our chat.
Yeah. I
So
guess we
yours
can
is
both say it at
alphabetically
once.
first, so you can go first.
Okay. So for my winner pick, I put Amber just because we talked a lot about how like a lot of people see her as secondary to Rob. And I think she could make a really good argument at the final tribal council that it's their fault that she got there in the first place because they saw her only as Rob's lieutenant. You know, if she got to the final three, Rob would vote for her. So that's already one guaranteed vote. And I think also Amber like has a lot of strategic chops and has a lot of social chops as well. And I think that people kind of don't pay attention to that as much because they see All Stars as like Rob and Amber's love story instead of like the story of Amber winning. So, yeah, I think that Amber has a lot of skills in Survivor. And if she got to the final tribal council, I think that she'd be able to see the jury or make the jury see those skills.
Yeah, so All Stars 2.0. So for my winner pick, I have Tyson. Woo, yay. Hopefully, I think okay, Tyson, I think he has the outwit, the outlast, the outplay, especially with the $2 million prize. I think he's one of those people who can really separate kind of friendships from the game. And I think he would be very good at realizing, okay, this is a game. Even though I'm friends with Boston Rob in real life, if the time comes, I will definitely vote him out if it's what's best for me, kind of thing. I think he's learned a lot from losing the other 2 times he's played and then winning the 3rd time. So I think he has that kind of experience of like what goes right, what goes wrong, what feels in my gut correct, and what does not feel in my gut correct kind of thing. And I think people may underestimate him because of heroes versus villains and like all of that jazz, which like it's sort of been a while and he won the next season he was on. So I don't really see that, but maybe people are thinking he's just like a tall, dumb dude, especially if he does play up his jokes and he's like, yeah, I'm a stay-at-home dad kind of thing. And I think being a stay-at-home dad will really incentivize him to play balls to the wall and make sure that like he won't lose this game because I think with that money, like his kids are so freaking cute. And I think Tyson is definitely one of those people who can win his way back from the edge of extinction if he is voted out. So he's just all around perfect for the winner pick.
Yeah, Tyson's perfect. It's great. The only reason I didn't pick Tyson as one of my winner picks is just because, like, he's so, like the reason that people wouldn't want to vote him out, I feel like would also be the reason they wouldn't want to vote him as a winner. But he's also great, so I would not mind a Tyson win.
Yeah, so this was our boot list buckets for Survivor Season 40 happening in 2 weeks. It's so freaking crazy, less than 2 weeks now. So I'm just so excited. Let us know in the comments down below what your buckets or your boot list for the season is. Who's your first boot? Who's your winner pick? You know, who do you think has winner potential? It's just there's so many different ways that we can fantasize about this. And so in 12 days, we will know who's the first boot of the season, which is so freaking crazy. Australian Survivor starts on Monday, and I'm so hyped for that. There's going to be a lot of reality TV watching for this next few months.
Yep. So, like Rachel said, let us know down in the comments below what you think, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Peace.